The Nerf Rival Khaos, a 40-round full auto spray machine. It's a pretty awesome blaster, especially when you modify it, and you can get some incredible results running it off a LiPo. But even for me, a 6'4" guy, this blaster is big, it's bulky, and the mags are just weird to use. We can do better. Now that is more like it. This is my Khaos pistol. It doesn't really have an official name because Khaos pistol just sounds really cool already, but it is the functional part of the Khaos right here with an Apollo grip integrated into it. So you get the full auto capability of the Khaos with the 12-round easy to load magazine function of the Apollo. It is the best of both worlds smashed in together. But now with the Hera being a thing, it's basically just a full auto Hera, because when I started this, we didn't know the Hera was going to be a thing. Nerf can be tricky like that sometimes. Now before I go into the details of this build, I have to give credit to Liberty Foam Designs for inspiring me to make my own Khaos pistol. He posted his own version of it on Nerf Modders Welcome, as well as having like little bits and pieces showing off how it worked on Instagram, and I had to make one for myself. So a lot of credit goes to him for not only inspiring me to make this, but answering a bunch of questions that I had. He's super nice, he's super awesome, and without his creativity, this would not be a thing. So a lot of credit goes to him. I'll have a link in the description to both his Facebook page and his Instagram if you want to go check him out. With that out of the way, let's talk about the paint job and the external bits of this blaster. For this build, I wanted the paint job to look as stock as possible, make it look like something Hasbro may have made and released themselves. The red is Montana Gold Ketchup Red with Montana Gold Shock Black for the black areas. On the right side, keeping with the stockish looking theme, I added the Khaos stripes. To make these, I took a photo of the stripes on my other Khaos, measured and scaled them up to 100% in Photoshop, and used the printout to cut out the tape for the design. It's not 100% correct in spacing or in how the blotches are, but I think it turned out pretty well. In keeping with the Nerf theme, I left the other side patternless. This is mostly because I'm lazy, I'm going to be honest, but it's also because I didn't want to misalign the stripes going this way, and because Nerf doesn't do it on their own rival stuff. They always leave the left side blank, which is kind of weird. And to protect the paint, I used Spray Max 2K Clear Coat in semi-gloss. It's a bit shinier than I want it to be. I wanted this to be more like the stock shell shininess, but it's much less shiny than the Pro XL 2K Clear in glossy that I'm used to using, so I'm okay with it. On the right side of the shell, underneath the pattern, we have the battery tray. It's quite large and obnoxious looking, I know, but it allows big batteries to be used so you can give the motors the amperage needed to perform correctly, and so you can go long periods during an HVZ game or even day games without having to swap something out. The box opens and closes using a thumb screw at the back and a magnet at the front. And this was originally going to use 2 magnets, but I didn't think they'd hold on strong enough if the user was running or jostling the blaster a bunch. The thumb screw threads in and is easy to take out for on-the-field swaps or whatever you need to do with it. And the last little bit I'll cover for the externals is this part back here. This is the area that houses the PWM that controls the conveyor belt speed. This was made with bent PVC, polycarb for the sides, and epoxy putty to help with the shape. I even drilled some holes into it to allow for air to cool off the PWM circuit board if need be. And inside the box is epoxy putty that has been molded around the PWM circuit board so that it can stay in place. To control the PWM and the speed of the conveyor belt, there's a potentiometer sticking out on the left side. The speed stays at 0% until you turn the knob about 40% or so. From there, the more you turn it to the right, the faster the conveyor belt moves and the faster you shoot. There is a piece that should be on this build but isn't at the moment, and that is an extended Apollo release mag made by Liberty Foam Designs that he sent my way. Currently, mine is in need of some slight tweaking to get working perfectly, and it will be added to the build in the future. I just want to show it off because 1, it's pretty darn cool, and 2, Liberty Foam Design sent it my way, so he has to get some credit for it. A quick overview for those who may be wondering how this blaster works. It's pretty simple. The magazine is loaded into the Apollo grip, and when it's fully seated, the little tab at the top of the mag releases its hold on the balls, and the spring in the mag pushes them up towards the conveyor belt. When the conveyor belt is moving, it guides the balls down the PVC that is epoxied underneath of it. The PVC's position is the most critical part of this entire build. Position too high and the balls will cause stress to the conveyor's gears and may not even move. And if you position it too low, it won't have enough pressure to move the ball smoothly. This piece took the most time to sand and perfect, and I'm very happy with how it turned out, even if it is kind of hideous to look at. On the other side of the shell, I have added a molding that fits around the conveyor box. In testing, I noticed the conveyor being pushed up by the balls due to spacing, and this caused the conveyor belt to make contact with the flywheels, which is not good. The mold keeps the conveyor box from moving up and was done by covering the conveyor box in silicone grease and imprinting the shape into a blob of epoxy putty, which was then fine-tuned with a Dremel and an X-Acto knife. It's a small but incredibly crucial upgrade for this build to keep it running smoothly. The wiring for this build is decently simple, but requires 2 switches to work correctly due to how the PWM circuit is laid out. For that, I have 2 V2141C6 21 amp switches in front of the trigger, using the stock trigger and some extended polycarb to activate them. I wish I could have made them staged so that you could rev the blaster before firing, but the space is so cramped inside that I couldn't find a way to do it. The blaster is running with all stock motors, so performance is what you would get with a normal Apollo and Khaos build. And that really covers everything going on with this build. Let's shoot it some more. Just like with every build, there are some cons to this, and there are 3 that are a bit minor, but I wish I could change. Number 1 is the weight. This blaster comes in at nearly 3 pounds without a lipo. It's not super heavy, it's just surprisingly heavy for a pistolish kind of blaster. The second con I have is the delay between a fresh mag and when this blaster fires. It's not too bad when it's at 100%, but if you want to shoot it slower, you're going to have to wait a little bit, and that's just because of how this thing is set up with a conveyor belt. It's kind of annoying, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. The third con I have, which is also the biggest one that I have for this build, is getting the shell together. Due to how it's all laid out and all the stuff going on with this, as well as having to have the PWM seated properly into its little molding case, and having to put the potentiometer on the left side and all that stuff, this blaster takes a while to get together, which is really annoying and really makes me never want to have to open this up for maintenance, but oh well, what you gonna do? And that is the Khaos pistol. I am super duper happy with how this turned out, especially when you compare it to a full Khaos. It's about half the size. The functionality of it is way, way better, and I think I hit every goal that I set out to do with it looking stock, having a PWM that controls the rate of fire, and just cutting down the size and the way it works. So I'm pretty darn happy with it. If you have any questions about how it works, or maybe if you have any cool name suggestions for it, leave them in the comment section below. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a great day wherever you are. Pew, 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 pew.